and how it can become the molecular again. Does that? Any more questions on that?
Yeah, this is not really a question. It's just a little statement. When you talk about sympathetic vibrations, really what you're talking about is resonance.
No. No, there's a difference between sympathetic vibration and resonance. Resonance is an effect. Sympathetic vibration is the cause of that effect. If we've got this thing vibrating over here, and it has a vibration, it is emitting a vibration that happens to be sympathetic to this one over here, this one will begin to resonate after the sympathetic vibration impacts it. So resonance is an effect. It's not a cause of it. But it in itself can then become a cause of something else. It's all a big change. Everything's hooked together.
Okay, okay. Because, yeah, this is something I've worked on and pondered on my own for a long time. And if you look at all the science, a lot of the effects of science are really caused by, when you're talking about chemistry and how things relate, it's really the vibrations that make all these combinations and molecules possible. And I've been working on this, trying to put together some kind of paper, and it's really an unknown law or principle that's never been published in the books, which is that's sympathetic vibrations. And for some reason, I don't know why it's never in there, but it's so obvious. But it's really a principle, but it's not mentioned. It's not a law like some of these other laws are. And maybe I can talk to you more about that. The reason why it's left out, it's something really obvious. I call it resonance, but I understand. When I say resonance, I mean both. What you're saying, the two things.
Well, in the realm that we're trying to investigate here, and I need to go back and reiterate, my original investigation, personally, my personal quest, began in my effort to understand. I was living in South America. I was having a hard time with life in general, and I wanted to understand it to an extent that I wasn't a victim of it. I wanted to know more about life and how to deal with it. And as I began studying about cycles, that everything in life operates on cycles, business cycles and whatnot, I began to realize that there's more to this than any of us ever thought. And it's a quest for truth, and it's very difficult to lump things together or to look at something with not as great a precision as we can. We have to look with as great a precision as we can possibly have. So there is a difference between sympathetic vibration and resonance. And we need to understand those differences, or we're just lumping things together and we don't have a clear and accurate viewpoint of what we're trying to do or accomplish. And it took me a long time to be able to say what I just told you very simply, the difference between those two things. Things like induction in electrical science. The cause of induction is sympathetic vibration, but they don't look at it like that. If you go to the mechanical engineering books, they talk about sympathetic vibration. The music talks about it. There's sympathetic instruments. They've been designed for the past 200 years. There's all kinds of things. But it hasn't been a big deal. And only through the Keely stuff did he really take that thing. And there is a law of sympathetic vibration. I have that on my table in there.
Okay. Have you tried to take that law seems like a fundamental fact of nature. Have you tried to break it down even further, like they, breaking down the molecule into, smaller? Have you tried to look into the more origins of that, or is that something outside this physical plane? That's just the law.
No, there are what I call universal principles. And Casey talked about these quite a bit. Keely dealt with them. All the old philosophers taught about universal principles and laws. Today we don't. Today we learn in technology, and that's what we earn our living with. In the old days, these universal principles applied universally, or they weren't universal principles, they were something else. And there are a given set of these principles that we've identified. Polarity is one, resonance is another, rhythm. These are basic fundamental things, and they apply to all realms, whether it's a molecular realm or an etheric realm, they all apply the same. There will be mode shifts and things of that nature, but it's basically the same stuff. So you only got to learn one thing, and it applies to everything. So yeah, it's there if we care to put forth the effort.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to allow me a little bit to go to the chart and explain practical use of those numbers.
If it's not more than a minute, I
will try as fast as possible. Everyone from time to time goes for a symphony concert with a famous piano player like Claiborne and so on. There is only one note which is in tune, orchestra with the piano. People don't realize this. And this is how this is. Now, to explain this one here, if you, let's say this is a contra C, I mean the second C on the piano, on the left side. Once you play this note, all those other numbers are playing at the same time. Generally people don't hear it because they are not in train. I quit to play with the symphony orchestra. I'm still connected with music as a piano tuner. If I play this one here and play, this means contra C. This is octave. The next C, fifths, G. This is seventh. This is 2 octaves, and so on and so on. Now, if you play this note and you press those equivalent notes, but not playing, just press the keys down, and you play this one here loud, you can hear the whole. All the other sounds on a piano. It's very easy to demonstrate. This is true what you are talking about. All other instruments, they are built completely different from piano. Up to John Sebastian Bach, on a piano you could play only in 3 keys. Let's say C, F, 1 sharp, and one flat, F. John Sebastian Bach was he likes to compose in all the keys. So they call all the piano tuners and they discuss, and this is a time where they introduce so-called temperament tuning, which is not exactly corresponding with this side here. We have to compromise to how does. In other words, I will explain how to understand. For instance, if the violin plays C, half a tone has 9 commas. In Europe, we call commas. I don't know what this equivalent in USA. Also commas? Okay, 9 commas. If violin plays C, C sharp, he is using 5 commas. In other words, from C sharp to D remains only 4. But if he goes down, he plays D flat, he is again using 5. From D flat to C remains only 4. You see where the conflict is. This is what all choirs are doing without instrument. Choirs are doing this. All symphony orchestras are doing this. Even brass instruments are doing this. Now, to compromise, to use the piano with the orchestra, we are using completely different system of tuning the piano. We call it temperament. And I said at the beginning, there's only one note which corresponds correctly with the symphony orchestra, the A. The violin player plays the A, and all people plays the A on the piano, and all are playing. All other notes are out of tune. Of course, the general public don't hear it because it's so fine, so close. If I go for, let's say, for Clyburn Symphony Orchestra concert with a piano, I have to do this because it interferes with my listening. It's not in tune, but this is the only way to do it.
Okay. Thank you. He made some very good points there that probably went over most people's heads. One thing he said there towards the end, that there's